The next presentation has the theme Evolve the Core Smart Telco. The presenter will be René Werner, our Chief Strategy Officer. Before joining Ooredoo, René has been working for Deutsche Telekom, for Axiata, and for eBay as well.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have today the pleasure to talk about Smart Telco. Where does Ooredoo wants to go? We want to evolve towards becoming a Smart Telco, as Aziz was sharing with you in the earlier presentation today. What is Smart Telco? Is for us basically creating new use cases to monetize our assets and build the enablers to also have the broader organization in a position to monetize these assets. If we move behind this, Ooredoo has set up a whole program that covers multiple areas to make sure we can progress to become a Smart Telco. These areas you see here in an overview. I quickly talk you through all of the 8 areas, but we will focus today on the 2 highlighted areas, which is digital partnering and fintech. Just quickly covering the other remaining 6 areas. We are progressing towards becoming more agile, more flexible for external partnering, but also for our own IT, developing broad API platform capabilities. And by this also are in line with the overall industry trend, where telcos want to be more agile in front of their customers and act faster and more with a focus on customer experience. Second area that we're looking at is what we call One App. Behind that is the thinking to really harmonize our customer touch points, our shopping windows for the customers by which they can interact with us and create synergies across our multiple country operations with this. The third area, I think, is an evergreen in the meanwhile for the telco industry. Also something that keeps us busy is evolving our analytical capabilities within the organization to ensure we can better monetize, we can better also serve the customer. And we will talk also today about customer experience, where analytics contributes quite a bit, being closer to the customer and really being proactive about customer requests. Fiber infrastructure. There's a saying in our industry, 5G networks are literally fiber networks with a few antennas on top of it. For obvious reasons, as a very strong mobile player, we're looking at how we can build a proper fiber infrastructure for backhaul. In some of our markets, that also opens opportunities for last mile fiber business with consumers as well as businesses. And we're currently reviewing ability to kind of go deeper there and also open another connectivity market for us as a connectivity provider in our footprint markets. IoT, again, an evergreen in the industry. We're also working there, and it has become a focus area for the group to really harmonize, search for synergies across our operations in this area. Network-based security is another topic. Everybody of us knows the value of having secure networks, protecting our customers from hacker threats that are out there and are rising in numbers. With network-based security, we want to offer our capabilities to protect our networks also to external partners and pursue this area as a growth area. Some of our markets on those just mentioned 6 areas in different maturity stages. According to that, we're kind of following also the maturity of our markets to invest when the opportunity is right in these markets. Today, I'm now talking about digital partnering and fintech as 2 areas that are for us interesting and hopefully are also interesting for you. I start with digital partnering. You see in the industry 2 models that are out there. One is building own digital assets, own digital properties with substantial investments, investing substantial capital. Ooredoo is not following this approach. We have one exception to which I come in a second. We have a highly free cash flow accretive business today in digital partnering. So we're very open to partners across the globe. We have today in our network more than 200 partners that do business with us across multiple opcos. And this model is very simple. We are like a shopping window for the services of these partners, and we get a sales commission, or we get a commission, for example, for billing their services to our customer base. We facilitate a sale. Given this, we have a substantial free cash flow contribution from this. So revenue in this space is nearly equal to free cash flow. You see that we had, on a nominal base, a near two-digit growth, not exactly, over the last 12 months for the first half year of 2022. If we cleanse for foreign exchange movements, we had even a double-digit growth, as you can see. And we have barely touched so far the area, for example, of B2B digital services, which see the highest growth and is for us very obviously a growth area, similar to B2B2C, which is platform services, and I'll talk a bit to this in a second. B2C is for us a very well-established area. You see this is currently the bulk of our digital revenues and is still growing very solidly. Overall, we are doing about 6%, you see here 5.8% of our service revenues on digital services, but it contributes way over proportionate to our free cash flow profile. Digital services contribute already today 18% of free cash flow, and linking this a bit to the growth rates are promising for us a very solid and good outlook. I move on to give you a little bit more detail. As I said, some markets are in different maturity stages, and you see this also in these revenue breakdowns. So we have a solid contribution from Qatar and, for example, Iraq, then obviously based on size of our operations, different contributions from other opcos. I want to point you here to the share of service revenues in this very profitable, nearly zero capital intensive business that we pursue. You see here that in Qatar, for example, we're doing only about 5% of our service revenues from digital services, while in other countries like Algeria and Iraq, we're doing about 10% of our service revenues in digital services. We think that we still have ample room for growth in these markets. The challenge that I'm not shy to mention is that digital services, as I mentioned, more than 200 partners, are growing in certain areas. In others, we're seeing shrinkage. The challenge for us is obviously portfolio management on these services, always to have an interesting portfolio for our customer and managing the portfolio for overall growth, which we have seen quite a good track record within the organization. You see here in particular, I just point out a few areas. Carrier billing is for us in some of the markets still a growth opportunity. You see here triple-digit growth, for example. You see other more traditional areas, the classical SMS content services that are declining, which is natural with the progression of the customer base to being more data-centric and being, so to say, more over the top. So overall, we have grown by a handsome 13%, and we're quite happy seeing this growth, and we hope that we can continue and drive this further. In short, what are we planning to do across our operations? For the first part, finding these services is sometimes still a challenge. It has grown, so to say, in the past. We have to kind of go to a more structured approach, easing the discovery of these digital services, and by this unlocking growth opportunities for us. This means we are looking currently at launching of what I would call harmonized shopping windows across our operations. Today, for example, we have not a harmonized shopping window for large screen. And we're in the process of launching this in our markets. So you have, for example, on large screens, a new shopping window that will have TV, live TV, gaming, as well as music. We have the same topic also on the business side, and we're pursuing this as well. Then, second opportunity, which is I think natural to a portfolio type of business that we have here, is basically continuously looking for new VAS and subscription services that are attractive and appealing to our customers. For that, analytics also plays a role to really understand where the consumer is interested in and to drive these opportunities further. And also in some of our markets, given certain restrictions that are given by certain central banks, basically payment terms are their topic. We're closing successively remaining country gaps on direct carrier billing and advancing also the service categories. What we have is basically accelerating as well, growth in B2B2C as well as B2B categories. We're here having quite a substantial opportunity, as I pointed out earlier. B2B is currently in that revenue mix still underrepresented in a more, I would say, emerging state than the established B2C partnerships. We see here quite a bit of opportunities and we want to launch this. We have in other areas B2B2C, which is, for example, A2P. This is an industry term for application to person. This is a service that is used by the Ubers of this world. If you want to register for their service, they send you, for example, an SMS with your registration password. We haven't exploited that opportunity fully in Qatar and Oman and see there quite a substantial contribution that we can generate as well. And then finally, also, we want to capture the unique fintech growth opportunity that we see in our Ooredoo footprint. And I will go now with you a little bit through the details where we are in this. And for us, a big step into this will be in the first quarter, second quarter of next year. So this gives you an overview where Ooredoo already is. In blue, you see that we have partially only captured opportunities in the Ooredoo money operations, as I would call it. This is basically mobile money operations in some of our opcos. Based on the most recent reports from the GSMA, which highlight the transaction value, and mapping this with our own data, we see that we have already in the MENA region a transaction value of the overall mobile money market of roughly 35%. So we're doing about 5 billion value of transactions every year. On mobile remittances, the overall global market is perceived to be 16 billion according to that GSMA study. We see in our own numbers that we do a transaction value of roughly 2 billion, which gives us about 12% market share. These numbers are basically enabled through a very good and strong partner network. We have, for example, wallet-to-wallet partnerships with the likes of M-Pesa, with the likes of bKash, and these are basically partners that are relevant to, for example, the blue-collar population that we have in our footprint markets. So the blue-collar workers are able to send money to their families. And this is obviously also a benefit we give in customer experience to our own customer base with quite attractive and competitive rates, for example, for remittance payments that we are able to provide together with our partners like MoneyGram. Overall, you see also that we have quite strongly grown over the last year in terms of adding customers to our mobile money base by 85%. We are proud to have roughly more than 1 million customers with us already that are active. So this is not registered customers, but customers that do real transactions. Roughly more than 400K of these customers, 453K, are from Myanmar in this context. Overall, you see here also an overview a bit of our footprint markets that we consider as very attractive for our next evolution in fintech. You actually see 2 clusters of markets in our footprint. One cluster that is very mature and advanced in terms of financial inclusion, where credit cards are given, where there's a high ATM smartphone penetration, for example. There is high banking penetration in these markets. Under these markets, we see Qatar, Oman, Kuwait, and Maldives building a cluster. We see also other markets where there is substantial growth possible, in our view, where there is low credit card penetration, where there is little ATMs that you will find, and you have, for example, a rather low banking penetration. The joint denominator is here that a lot of these markets have an extremely high smartphone penetration, of which we can leverage as a mobile operator. In these markets, we intend to launch a completely new and revised proposition. This is subject to also having licenses in these markets, which is not a given as of now, and it's partially of the process that we're in, gathering these licenses or partnering for these licenses in the respective markets. Just going back to the bifurcation of the two clusters that I led into this chart, this leads us also into a dedicated thinking in terms of the propositions and the partners we want to win for our new fintech offering. If I move on, you see here a little bit of a benchmark that we did across multiple operators and their mobile money penetration in their base. You see here in dark blue that a lot of our peers in the industry were able to gather about 18 to 19% of their mobile customers being converted into active mobile money users. We have today a footprint of 44.5 million mobility subscribers. Assuming we have everywhere a license available, which is still work in progress for us, we think that we have a potential of 6 to 8 million active Ooredoo fintech customers in the region that we operate in. This is roughly a 10 times growth of the current active base, excluding the current base we have in Myanmar already. If you think about this, for us, again, the region in which we operate has now a certain momentum also by regulators to open the region for innovations in fintech. And we want to develop those markets together with the current change in environment and use the opportunity for Ooredoo to build, in particular for our customers, to build an attractive fintech business that gives customers the option to participate in the digital economy. If we look at what does that do also in terms of value for our shareholders, we've seen some activities where strategic investors were asked into the existing mobile money operations of some of our peers. We have seen that there is a certain valuation point, on average $130 per active user, so that we think also overall, if we can basically follow on the success that we had so far and can build up to our potential, that there is an attractive story for our shareholders with this. So now we're in some of the markets, as I mentioned earlier, already active. What is changing now in our new approach to fintech? First of all, we want to develop one financial service hub for our fintech customers with strong partnerships. If you want to do a comparison, think Uber for financial services. Uber doesn't own the cars. Uber doesn't own the drivers. Uber owns a platform that brings together customers with the cars and the drivers. So for us, this is the same mentality, very strongly partner-oriented, based on the heritage we bring to the table from our digital service operations. As of now, the operations we have are usually locally developed. We want to basically develop this now across the region in a more harmonized fashion that will have some local flavors to it. In addition, today we have various technical platforms. We want to develop this into one common code base that allows us agility, flexibility, and speed. In addition, this will give us also the ability to roll out best practices and the best experiences from one country to the next at speed. Multiple brands today that we use in some of these markets, we want to go to one single brand across our markets. And the other piece is also, since we live in an open world, is so far we have been really focused on our customer base. We want to open our proposition up, being operator agnostic. That means if a competitor customer feels our fintech proposition is also attractive to him, he is more than happily invited to join our active customer base. Product-centric so far, we have developed features, quite a bit of them are out there, but we haven't focused enough so far on the UI UX, on the experience that the customer has with a lot of these features. We want to make it easy, we want to make it fun in the way we develop that proposition. So in short, we want to develop synergies through a central tech platform, and we want to use local markets in the go-to-market. And by this, we hope that we get to a very nice cross-footprint synergy that gives us basically also the success that we're looking for in the markets. Moving on, I would basically start with what is the proposition that we're looking at. B2C, we will develop a money hub, as we call it. Very intuitive, it will be highly personalized. It will have literally a marketplace for our fintech partner that we invite to this. So Ooredoo will not carry the risk on its own balance sheet. We invite partners for that. And again, it's a marketplace approach. Second to this, we will drive a lot user engagement and loyalty. There's a lot of personal lifestyle features that we integrate this. We have a lot of loyalty programs out there that we will integrate into this and make it very interesting for our users to stay engaged, to use the service actively and frequently with us. Last but not least, merchant engagement. We want to have here also, and this is a two-sided market, an attractive proposition for merchants, giving them insights about how their business is growing, how they can potentially improve their business, and give them also options vis-a-vis the customer to actually reach out to the customer and make them targeted offers. More to that, probably with the launch. I don't want to kind of tell you already too much on this, but we're very confident we have an attractive proposition at our hands. Now, what are the next steps? Number one, we want to develop the revamped service offering in certain selected markets for launch, probably in Q1, Q2 next year. Regulatory, as I said, we're applying for licenses or we partner with existing players in our footprint markets. This is ongoing. Then also the service portfolio, we will evolve this together with partners, and we're in discussions with partners to have them on board with the proposition that we're developing. And then obviously within Ooredoo, we will develop and establish a central fintech unit that serves the individual markets and drives the synergies across the footprint. I hope that gave you an interesting insight into a really attractive growth opportunity by which we think we can drive fantastic customer experiences. As well, we can help the financial inclusion in our footprint markets and make interacting with that fintech proposition fun and rewarding. Thank you very much for your attention.